Heat 'em up. Do, re.
He gone.
We're the best, we're the beautiful, we're the only
Ghostbusters.
Tell them about the Twinkies.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
He slimed me.
Slime! It's the river of slime! There's something very important I forgot to tell you. What? Don't cross the stream.
Sometimes shit happens, someone has to deal with it, and who are you gonna call?
Hello and welcome to episode 136 of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is the sponsor as well as a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows over at batmanpodcastnetwork.com and follow our Twitter at BatPodNetwork. If you're listening to us on iTunes, if you take the time to rate and review the show, we'll read it on the podcast. BOF is also now on Patreon, so if you like what we do here at BOF, whether it's the podcasts, vlogs, or the website itself, and you want to help support us, if you're so inclined, please head over to patreon.com/BatmanOnFilm and sign up. I am the host of today's episode, Ryan Haas, and today's show will be another satellite show. And much to everyone's dismay, no, this is not a Rick Shu satellite show. Rick Shu is not present. We're not going to be talking about Star Wars and lightsabers, and we're not going to be talking about, we could, but we're not going to be talking about Star Wars. That's not the primary thing. We're not going to be talking about Rocky and boxings, where it's not our much anticipated Back to the Future satellite show. We are going to be talking about Ghostbusters, and
Buster makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Especially for the time it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And as you can hear from the voice, for this very extra special occasion, for this extra special satellite Ghostbusters show, my buddy and fan favorite guest, Paul Hermann, is here.
You're so nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I try to be.
Well, I want to make this very clear to people that I feel bad because I'm always like asking, Justin from Let's Go or Ryan from BOF or Rick from BOF being like, hey, can I make up my own show and like get on the show? And you guys are like, sure. And I'm like feeling bad because I'm like, trying to basically get my own shows up there because I'm just, whatever. But it's fun.
It's fun. And what's great about the BOF satellite shows is this is exactly what is in the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
That's what these shows are kind of for. And whenever somebody that is part of the site kind of is like, hey, I love this thing that's not Batman, but I'm passionate about. And if you could find at least one other person that is even remotely the same level of passionate, you should probably do a show on it. So
exactly. Well said.
And that's, we've done that, because that's what BOF is kind of all about. It's taking a good passion and kind of putting it out there to the world. And it's obviously primarily Batman, but us being able to do Star Wars shows and Rocky shows. And I think this is going to be our next little pillar here, is doing a Ghostbusters show. So, of course there's impetus for why we are talking about Ghostbusters today. And, me and Paul were just talking about the news, and Paul was like, hey, maybe we should do a show about this. And we just happened to be recording episode 135 of the BOF podcast while Paul was asking me this. And I was like, I'm still up. I'm down to record this show. And Paul's like, what? Now? I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. So we just rolled right into this show, and which is good. It's, so we'll have more content, more shows, more things for people to listen to. So so here we are, Paul. It's kind of your baby here, just kind of to get. I know, but Paul Hermann, you gotta deliver.
When I asked for the ball, I gotta shoot. You know what I mean? So I'm going to. So basically, if I'll take the lead here, if you don't mind, I guess, Ryan.
Sure, no, do it.
So basically, the last couple of days, Entertainment Weekly has dropped like two major bombs back to back. First of all, at this time right now.
Well, hold on. I think should we first talk about like Ghostbusters in general? Like,
okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. All right, before we get to the the last couple of days, I guess we'll talk about Ghostbusters and what's kind of I guess for me what that means for me, and we'll talk about what it means for you.
Yeah.
So I think if you grew up in the 80s. Like I did. I know I'm a little bit older than you, Ryan, but not much. Like
yes,
maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe. But
well, I was only present for about two years of the 80s.
Well, I'm way older than you. Then God, I hate you. So not way older, but I'm older. Okay, so for me, I grew up. I was born in '82. Ghostbusters came out in '84. I had no idea what it was when it came out. I think I was. I don't know if my parents told me they took my brother, he's 6 years older than I am. And I want to say, my mom took my brother to see Ghostbusters and like he got scared. And I don't know if I was like only 2 years old, just kind of doing my thing, just enthralled by visuals or whatever. I'm not sure if I was there or not. My mom was telling me about this years and years ago, but I think like at one point, one of the parents had to take my brother out because he was too scared. Of the movie. Wow. Yeah. So, but at any rate, my parents recorded it off of HBO or Showtime, whatever one they were stealing from. They had a black box at the time. I don't know if you guys remember. If anyone who knows what that is, that's like back in the day, like there was a black box to get all the channels. And I remember my mom and dad had, at the time, we had everything. And I remember it was a black box and a dial. I remember it very vividly. and looking back, I'm like, oh, my parents, I think they had one of those illegal ones. Who knows? I don't know. My parents are crazy. So anyway, sorry, Mom and Dad, I didn't mean to indict you. So we, my mom and I recorded Ghostbusters off of TV, and there's a certain amount of movies when you grow up in the 80s, in my opinion, that you just connect to. That we, if you're an 80s kid, you all bond. You all can, you all hate each other for other reasons like politics, whatever. But if you like stripped all those things away and you just talked about the movies you loved, like we all love the same movies, essentially, right? So I mean, yeah. Star Wars, obviously. I mean,
Indiana Jones.
Well, I wasn't a big Indiana Jones guy. Like that's the one thing. That's probably. I still liked it, but I wasn't like as big. That was more like I say Indiana Jones. But Last Crusade came out in '89, like right towards the end. So yeah. I would say like Temple of Doom was kind of Like I just never connected to that movie. I still like my least favorite Indiana Jones movie. This is the Indiana Jones.
A lot of people agree with you. Well, except for the Crystal Skull, of course. But.
You're killing me here. This is not Indiana Jones Satellite, man. You're killing me. We'll save that for that's a Rick Shoe show. Anyway, so sorry, Rick. I love you. Anyway, no. Most of these films we talk about, like Star Wars, mainly obviously Empire and Jedi, Back to the Future, the first
Back to the Future. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about Ghostbusters. I mean, these are films
the Alien movies, although that's 70s-ish, but
I was later for me. I for some reason I missed those till later in life. I
did too.
But yeah, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, and Star Wars were the films I watched on the reg. Like, with add in a few other random ones that no one knew about, like Legend. I love Legend from Tom Cruise.
I love Legend too,
dude. We'll have a satellite show on Legend someday. Okay, just for me.
It's like a template for the Legend of Zelda, kind of.
Are you
Tim Curry?
You're killing me.
Yeah.
Here. Oh God, we'll have to. We'll talk later. This is a different podcast. But anyway, all these other films, Legend, things like that. These were movies, which, by the way, I had a tape of Return of the Jedi and Legend on the same tape. You ever have that back in the day? Like you have multiple movies on. They just double the pleasure.
This is like the one tape that has like because back in the day I recorded the Batman animated series every day when it came on first. So I have a ton of like first run original, Fox aired.
Tell me you have
animated series shows. Oh yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like it's like the same era where like I vividly remember I have like commercials of things like Super Mario Land 2 6 golden coins for the original Game Boy and Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, and I just remember those commercials so vividly. Like in the Super Mario Land 2 ones, it's like Wario's spinning head with like he's like I'm tricking you, and it's so
man, we are opening Pandora's box, Ryan. We are back on track. I'm sorry, we could do this.
It's so good.
I'm the king of tangents. So anyway, but yeah, so you would have the tapes with multiple movies on it, and then Ghostbusters I think had another movie on by. after. I don't remember what it was. I think it might have been Down and Out in Beverly Hills. I don't know if you guys know that movie, but that might have been on afterwards, or we recorded over it or something like that. But Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, and the Star Wars movies were literally the movies I watched on a regular basis with my brother or by myself constantly. Like I'd stay home if I stay home sick, it would be Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, or Star Wars. It was like one of those things when I was really little, and then whatever. So I have seen Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters might be one of the movies I've seen the most besides Star Wars and Marvel films. Back to the Future and Ghostbusters are probably the movies I've seen the most in my life. Besides,
I can see that.
Movies.
I can see that because I was the same way totally about Ghostbusters and Back to the Future as well. Because I remember when I finally got like so into Back to the Future, like there would be like summers when I was a kid where I would just have my VHS copies of Back to the Future, and we just had the little small like TV VCR combo.
Oh yeah,
and I just had that thing plugged up downstairs, and I would just run Back to the Future, the whole trilogy on a loop. And I would just have it playing, and I don't know, I probably watched it over and over and over again that summer. Just have it on because it's one of those movies like once you love it so much, and it just becomes. That's how movies like that become part of your childhood when they become literally become the background noise of your childhood.
Well, it's crazy because I'm very much a phase kind of person or at least more so when I was a kid. Like now, like I definitely go in like sometimes like things become more of a priority. Like right now, like Marvel and Spider-Man are like really up there, and Star Wars is kind of taking, back a little bit because just I'm so pumped for Spider-Man and Marvel stuff that's been going on with Into the Spider-Verse. And before that, like Star Wars Episode 7 and Rogue One were coming out, like Star Wars was nothing could beat it. I definitely go in like, no, I don't love one more than the other, but sometimes things take priority depending on what's going on with different things, I mean, obviously I'm a giant Star Wars fan still and read all the comics and blah, 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 but whatever. But when I was a kid, the same thing. Like I would go through these phases of like, I'd be all about Ghostbusters. I'd watch the cartoon Real Ghostbusters. I'd watch
the real Ghostbusters. Yeah. I mean, it's not like old filmation Ghostbusters. I love that. I love both. It took forever. I didn't. You don't know why things are done like that when you're a kid. And I remember like going to like, Blockbusters or video rental stores and seeing, oh man, Ghostbusters cartoon. And then it would be like the wrong one. I'd be like, what is this? It's not the real Ghostbusters. Yeah. And then just to find out when they made the cartoon show adaptation of our Ghostbusters, they did call it the real Ghostbusters just so they would like make sure the kids knew what it was. That's so awesome. I love that cartoon too. And that's the kind of thing where I never saw because I'm like a little bit, you did say that. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you, so I missed like, I was born in late 1987 in November, so I missed like the first run Ghostbusters. Was it Ghostbusters 2 89?
Yeah, 89. Came out same summer as Batman 89.
As Batman 89. Yeah, so Ghostbusters 1 is what, 85?
84, I think.
84, so they waited
84,
quite a few
85,
years.
one of two.
Quite a few years before between movies, because sequels like that weren't like the most common thing. Like like franchises in particular, I guess, weren't the most common thing. So I kind of missed the initial run of Ghostbusters, but like the cartoon was kind of there too. And so I was kind of more familiar with the cartoon first. I had friends that had the toys and proton packs and stuff, which I always thought was like the coolest thing. And so went from like, so for me, it was like the toys and Slimer toothpaste. Oh yeah, because I totally like had the Slimer toothpaste.
Slimer
and Ecto Cooler.
Oh man, so good.
Slimer toothpaste. So I went like from the outside in. I went from like Ecto Cooler and Slimer toothpaste to the toys to the cartoons and then to the movies.
That's pretty interesting. Okay, all right. Well,
because it was more like because it went from like demographic wise, those were things that were more for kids, and then you kind of go
to the more adult stuff
backwards. Yeah.
Right. Well, okay, so it's funny. The cartoon toys, I bought a ton. I had all of them, or not all of them. I had all the main Ghostbusters in some form or another, right? And I just loved them, and they definitely kept my passion for Ghostbusters going, even with the without the films or whatever. And I would go in these phases where like I'd play my Ghostbusters a bunch and whatever. Then I'd go like play with my I'd be in the Back to the Future and play with my Happy Meal Back to the Future toys. Remember those from the cartoon?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Back to the Future had a cartoon series. It was pretty good.
We're again another podcast, Back to the Future satellite show. Me and you, Ryan, will do it. Anyway, I just created more shows for myself, Ryan. I'm sorry.
No, Rick has been talking about wanting to do that too.
No, Rick doesn't like Back to the Future. I don't think.
He doesn't like the third one.
Well, in other words, he doesn't like Back to the Future. Anyway,
basically.
So, but then I'd go and like reading my comic books like crazy in the Spider-Man, and then Batman would come out. They'd be in a Batman. I'd go in these Star Wars. I'd be like, oh my god, watch all the Star Wars movies, and it'd all be like weeks at a time, whatever. But back to Ghostbusters. I would do I had all the real or a bunch of the real Ghostbuster toys. I had a Slimer toy. I had a my friend has one now. He went and rebought it. I had one of those original Stay Puffed toys, and I wish I still had it. It was dirty though. I mean, I played that thing to death. But yeah, I had a bunch of the cartoon toys. I loved them. I just loved them, and it's funny because I love the Ghostbusters movie. Even as a kid, half the things flew over my head. And I'll be honest, I'm going to say this right now, people. I have no idea why my parents let me watch that movie. I have no if I had kids now and when I have kids, I'm not showing that to their teenagers.
Seriously.
Okay, really fast. I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. Okay? When Ray has the dream and gets ghost head, during the
musical montage.
Weird. It's so
the weirdest
weird.
Thing. Cause it's boom, boom, it's like, what is happening?
I know.
If you're a kid, you just have no clue what's happening.
And as for years, it always made me feel weird. I'm just getting this out now. I just want to make sure it's just. They didn't need to put that in the movie. And what's even weirder is that because it came out before PG-13, it's still labeled PG.
Still PG.
So
it's the old PG.
If parents were to take their kids and see that now, they'd be like, what is going on? They'd be like, oh my Lord. And it's so weird. I always, even to this day, Ryan, I get uncomfortable at that scene. Even as a 37-year-old man, I still get uncomfortable at that scene.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's
weird.
Did they take that scene out of the TV airings or anything? I wonder.
Yeah, I think they edited it out for TV. I'm pretty sure
because there's this. Because what it reminds me of is there's this scene in Beetlejuice where that got taken out of all the TV viewings. Where I'm about to curse here because he after the Maitlands initially meet Beetlejuice and they leave, he jumps up on this tree and he knocks the tree off and Beetlejuice is like, nice effing model, and he grabs his crotch and it makes a sound. Yeah. I had never seen it because the VHS copies or whatever of the day or the viewing I saw on TV over and over again that I must have taped or something did not have that.
Yeah.
And so man, it must have been 10 years later when I finally got it on DVD or something for the first time and I saw that, I died laughing because I'm like, what is this? Where did this come from? I had no clue that scene existed. So I kind of wonder if that scene is the same thing for some people.
It might be. I think they did edit that scene out, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen it on but here's the thing, I've only seen it from Showtime or HBO when I recorded it off of that.
Oh, there you go. Well, that would have had the real thing.
Yeah, so I never not saw that scene. And my parents, my mom is always, and God bless her, she always was a little more liberal with art. I actually really appreciate that. And I definitely will, when I eventually have kids, I'll eventually, I think be a little more judicious with maybe what I did. I would probably be as liberal as my mom, but maybe still a little bit, depending on what it is, whatever. With that, I'm I probably won't, whatever.
Fast forward.
Yeah, exactly. But my parents are whatever. They just didn't. And here's the one thing: it did go over my head forever. I never knew what was going on until way later than I probably should have. So because you forget about it, you're oh yeah, that's weird. And and it's why did they do that? But that being said, with all that taken out, even the Dana Barrett stuff with with Bakeman when she's possessed and she's trying to sleep with him, and it's as a kid I'm oh, you don't think of it like that, it's not. So, but anyway, that being said, I mean, I don't think it influenced me one way or another either. You know, I just, again, it went over my head. But there's so many things in that movie that I loved, like the terror dogs. And the one,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like Ghostbusters, it has this very interesting tone to it.
Yes,
that I think that's probably one of the biggest things that like has kept it going as longevity, because it's like it's this very specific thing. There's only 2 movies in like the core like franchise. Of course, there's the 2016 remake, but right now, like in terms of like the Ghostbusters, those initial 2 movies, and that's all that you really had to go off of for years and years, right? And it's one of those things, just like Back to the Future, where it's like, how much content can you actually get out of this kind of property, where it's like it can so easily be stagnant because it's made the way the movies were made. They're kind of in this finite thing, but it's interesting to see how much longevity they're able to get out of them. Mm-hmm. Like in like for Back to the Future, for instance, where they did have the animated series, they did have the theme park ride for a while, and they had the Telltale game series, and they've had a ton of comic books about Back to the Future lately, and Ghostbusters is like the same, right? They've had like
Ghostbusters.
They've had multiple.
Comics, dude.
They've and a lot. The comics are really good.
I've heard they're great. They have a big cult following. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just the whole franchise has a cult following. But I especially think the comics have a giant cult following.
Yeah,
they have like when you cross over Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters, that's a pretty, you know, that's pretty heavy duty, man. Like, I mean, Ninja Turtles is like, you know, I would say would be technically bigger than Ghostbusters, right? But the fact
I would say so.
But the fact that they would combine those two in IDW's line, that's nutty. Like, you know,
like the comic books and lots of comic book series, and they've had multiple animated series. Like there was Extreme Ghostbusters, like in the 90s, right? In the early 2000s.
Was that any good?
I don't know. I didn't really. Again, like a lot of those shows like that, like we just didn't get when I was a kid. We didn't get the channels that they came on, and I just missed them. But I knew they existed because like games would come out, you know, video games based on them would come out. And speaking of which, there was like the Ghostbusters video game, like, you know, in 2005, 6, 7, something like that.
10. You're thinking of the one for Xbox?
Yeah, for 360.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just bought that tonight. I just bought it.
Have you not played it?
I played it years and years ago. My buddy and I wasn't a big game. I'm still not a big gamer. I'm a big gamer. If my 10 years ago self saw me now, that when the game basically came out, like I would be like, I'm a gamer, but I'm not. Like I'm not even close to like you guys or whatever. But I bought the game with a friend of mine who's a big Ghostbusters fan. We were supposed to play it together because there's co-op mode. And I was like, let's come over to your place and hang out. And I just never did it. And he just beat the game himself and whatever. Which, again, wasn't his fault. We just, whatever.
I got to say that game is awesome because they like, it's the de facto, to this day anyway, the Ghostbusters 3 basically, where they, you know, they had all the original voice actors and they continued the story and stuff. And I really like that game. So, but anyway.
I'm excited to play it. Like I'm meaning to buy it, and after the last couple of days, I thought to myself, I need to play this game finally, and so I bought it. It was only $15. It's like whatever.
Yeah,
so
it's been out for a while.
Yeah, I picked it up, but I'm excited to play it. But yeah, like I think you hit on something that I think why Ghostbusters has survived for so long is that it's got a tone that's so unique that it's impossible to replicate. Even the sequel, which I'm going to get into in a second. Which people are going to think I'm going to badmouth. You have another thing coming, buddy. So, but this the whole I'll just say even the first two films, what the first two were able to do, tone wise, is so unique and so rare that even when you look at the reboot that happened in 2016, you knew immediately what was missing. And it was the fact that it took itself seriously and was funny at the same time. Hard.
I think was it Zaki Hassan that tweeted something to that effect today? He kind of nailed it.
He nailed it. And that's the thing about Ghostbusters is that the tone is so crucial. That to me, because you can have dumb comedy. There's dumb comedy. I think. Well, there's some dumb comedy in Ghostbusters. A lot of it's Venkman and Bill Murray's genius, but. Some of it's dumb comedy. Like, for instance, when they're in the hotel and they all turn around and throw their proton packs at the maid, and she goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And like that's dumb. It's just dumb physical comedy. But but again, there's such little humor that Venkman and even Aykroyd and the straight man. You've got the straight guy with Spengler. You've got people who have roles in their movies, and they're actual characters. They're not trying to be not caricatures.
They're not these archetypes.
They're archetypes, but they're also believable because they're believable people. People like Spengler exist. Gullible, like really like not gullible, but vulnerable people like Ray Stantz, Dan Aykroyd's character. He exists. Like, he's a vulnerable, like, he's gonna get swallowed up by the world kind of person. And Venkman's a person that's kind of selfish. And these are all people that exist in real life that you are probably friends with, that you still like them despite their flaws and who they are as people. So you identify with them, you understand them, you relate to them, and you also see them in real life settings of like hauntings where you're like, man, like I would act like this, and like, this is what happened in real life. Like, if ghosts really exist, or if they were haunting like this, if they do exist or whatever, whatever your stance is, I'm not going to argue with you. But if that actually happened, this is what, ghost busting would happen. Like, you would have real people show up as Ghostbusters, and I'm going to exterminate this ghost for you, blah, blah, blah. I'm ready to believe you, all this stuff. So Ghostbusters, you nailed it, Ryan. The tone is so critical. And I think that is what made it last so long. It's obviously.
Well, you had that tone, and then you add the stuff on top of it, like the iconography, like the music, the tech, the Ecto-1, the Slimer, the proton packs, and everything else goes on top of it. But you've already have that, and that's just true for any good story, right?
Exactly.
It's like that foundation, and like again, Back to the Future has the same thing. It's characters first in that franchise, and then you add on top, the DeLorean and the time travel and all that kind of stuff, and then it works because the characters and the tone work so well first.
So they created this tone that, and this mythology that they didn't even mean to, and how funny is it that like all the mythologies, or not all, but a lot of the mythologies that we love happen almost by accident. Like, oh, this will be a good one-off story, and then it turns into
just people making stories.
And they keep sprawling, and it's turned into this mega thing. Look at Star Wars.
Look at the Joker. Like, they almost killed him in his first appearance. They were like, maybe we should keep him around. He might be important.
And then all of a sudden, it's amazing how there's so many happy accidents. And Ghostbusters, Aykroyd just, he wanted to make a movie, and it was like insane, and it went from like, it started from like them being like interdimensional like warriors essentially to like ghost busting. It's like, it's so crazy the what he turned it into and what it's turned into. So the movie, just like I said, I grew up watching it, and I was just enthralled with the possibilities and always wanted a sequel. We got the sequel. And I'm curious, before I divulge in my thoughts on the sequel, what are your thoughts on the sequel?
I love the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like, I don't care if people are offended or whatever, but like, to me, it's like, it's just more of the same. It's more Ghostbusters. Like, it's great. I love it. And to me, I think it's one of those things where, like we were saying earlier, because it is part of my childhood, it's one of those things where I saw 1 and 2 back to back, over and over again together before there was an internet, before there were other people saying like, oh, number 2's not as good, like, or it doesn't do as much. Like, to me, it's just like, it's the same tone, it's the same characters, it's just more of the story. 1 I think is constructed better as a film and everything, but and I think 2 suffers because there's not a 3 to kind of bring it together and follow up with it, because it seems like there's probably should have been more story after that, but the way that 2 ends and everything, but because you wanted to see it. You know, an Alien is a lot like that. Like there's Alien 1, Alien 2, and then everything that kind of happens after is kind of a mess. You know, so it's kind of like the same thing there. But yeah, so I've always enjoyed, you know, Ghostbusters 2. And I think on some previous BOF show I mentioned at some point like the whole like river of slime thing happens, and it's like, what is it? It's a river of slime. I use that like weekly for some reason. I find some reason to include it's a river of slime into my daily conversation somehow, just because like I love that line. I just love that thing so much. And it's one of those I think it's good when like you can tell that a movie series is kind of populated your subconscious or psyche or whatever, that's part of you, part of your childhood, when like you can't remember which movie, which scenes are in which movie, you know, to me, because a lot of things are like, oh yeah, well that goo stuff in the toaster, was that in the first movie or the second movie? And you know, it just kind of all blends together, which to me is like a good thing, because it's like, it's all Ghostbusters, it's all fun. So I love Ghostbusters too. Yeah. And like, there's so much fun stuff in it too, like, you know, Vigo and like
Vigo,
like everything about it. I just love it.
Janish, oh man. So
there's my Ghostbusters 2 thoughts. There you go.
Really quickly, my Ghostbusters 2 thoughts, and maybe we'll do like a whole breakdown of these movies eventually when the eventual other movie comes out, whatever, next year or whatever. But really quickly, Ghostbusters 2 was a movie that I could not wait for. I mean, it's
so
funny.
You were actually, as a kid, like anticipating this, like, oh my God, Ghostbusters 2.
When I saw trailers for it, I mean, I didn't even realize. It's funny when I was watching the special features of all movies of UHF with Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
Right, another 80s cult classic, right? And his agent was being interviewed about something, and he said, or no, I was watching Behind the Music. That's what it was. I was watching Behind the Music, like from like back in the early 2000s, late 90s. And the agent was talking about Weird Al, and he was talking about UHF, and I didn't succeed. And it was in the summer of Batman came out, Last Crusade came out, Ghostbusters 2 came out, and I'm like, holy moly, they all came out the same time.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
That's insane. And I was thinking to myself, well, no wonder Ghostbusters 2 didn't do that well, because like people had already, back then, I don't think people wanted to go to the movies a ton, like all the time. And I think like they were kind of burned out by franchises at that point. You know what I mean? Like possibly. I don't know. That and maybe this, whatever, bad timing. I don't know when it came out. I think I want to say it came out. I should have researched this more. I'm sorry.
June 16th, 1989.
It came out right by Batman, didn't it? Because Batman came out in June.
And Batman was the very next weekend, June 23rd.
So I think like that's what it was. So that's where, because I remember I saw Batman before I saw Ghostbusters 2. I was way pumped for Batman. And
of course.
I saw Ghostbusters because we lived in Bothell, Washington, and then we moved to Lake Stevens, Washington that summer of '89. And I remember because we went and saw, I was like, Mom, we haven't seen Ghostbusters 2 yet. And she went and made sure we went and saw it. And I think it was the regular theater. I thought maybe it was a cheap theater, but no, I think it was we saw it in the regular theater. I was like, we got to see Ghostbusters 2. We got to see Ghostbusters 2. And, but yeah, I remember we saw it. I saw Batman first, I remember, because I had no idea when movies were coming out. My mom and dad didn't really, explain.
Yeah, I was the same way. It was, I was just like, when's that coming out? You had to kind of rely on them being like, okay, it's out. We'll take you now.
Yeah, exactly. It's out. It's been out for like, 4 months, But yeah, so I saw Ghostbusters 2. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I remember for that, was it? Yeah, it was my birthday. The next year, that following birthday, my mom, I asked for the movie book that the Scholastic books you can order. I ordered that through the movie book, which I still have probably somewhere. I got that through the Scholastic. I was really stoked about that. And I remember my mom rented me Ghostbusters 2 for my birthday, and I was like super stoked about it. And I watched it. I was like, my mom's like, I got it for you. I was like, yeah. I was like so excited to watch Ghostbusters 2 on my birthday that following year because I was a big Ghostbusters fan and I always loved it. I've always thought it was great. I always loved the fact that Slimer, like in the cartoon, became a part of
right?
See, I was like, yeah, they're following up with the cartoon. Like that was like, they're molding them, they're bringing the
merging,
they're merging together. And I love the fact that Rick Moranis, Louis Tully, was a Ghostbuster. I love that.
I love that too.
I always thought it was lame that he was like a bad guy because I always liked Louis Tully. So,
And see, like a lot of sequels would just like not even have that character in the sequel because they're not. It's just like they should have had Alexander Knox in freaking Batman Returns. Like I don't know why he wasn't in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, exactly. That was a weird choice. But 80s movies, a lot of sequels, any sequel, but specifically in the 80s, I feel like they would do that a lot. That they would ignore the whole first movie essentially, and then like just and just do something completely different. Like, oh, it's not like a reboot, but like we'll just forget that first one happened and we'll just do this. It felt like that's what kind of what Batman Returns was almost to me. That's a whole nother.
In a lot of ways, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love Ghostbusters too. And it's funny. I remember when the rumors of Ghostbusters 3 was happening, and I remember being like, I'm really stoked about this. And then I'd read things like Bill Murray not wanting to do it. I'm like, that's unfortunate. And then and when the internet dawned, and then you had more people asking him, and you kind of see more, and he'd be like, I remember a quote from him was once that the wounds from Ghostbusters 2 have not yet healed. And I'm like, why does he hate Ghostbusters 2 so much?
Yeah, like, that's kind of when and that's like the kind of first time I think that a lot of us kind of started to, because when the internet and things were starting to come a little bit more prominent, you could, read into that. You're like, because as a kid, you're like, I watched Ghostbusters 2. I love Ghostbusters 2. Why would you not do a Ghostbusters 3? And then you start to actually get into the, the behind the scenes stuff, and you start to get a little bit more like put off by like, oh, maybe this isn't going to happen. Like, why did he hate Ghostbusters 2 so much?
So I have a theory of why Ghostbusters 2 didn't do well. Besides the fact that it went after Batman, or Batman came out the next week and destroyed it. I mean, that was a dumb idea. But no one took Batman seriously, obviously. And I think, in hindsight, they would have probably either moved that up or moved it back. I think. I also think that families just didn't, because they all saw Batman, kind of forgot about it. And I don't think the people like. They probably read the reviews and said because the critics didn't love it as much as the first one, and I think that affected a lot of people. And and again, you had a lot of people competing for a lot of movies competing for dollars that time. I mean, you had Batman, you've got Last Crusade, you got lots of movies. There's other movies that came out that summer too. So you had all that, and it still made a little bit. But it wasn't as successful. And I think because it wasn't critically acclaimed as much as the first one, I think everyone thought, okay, it's a dead franchise. No one really cares about it. But I think kids liked it, and I think more kids wanted to see it. But I don't think their parents took them. I think everyone was too young, like me, who I would have saw that movie a couple times in the theater, but if my parents would have let me, but I wasn't. So I think, just like a lot of movies, it's a cult. It's not a cult movie, but it almost is, because I talk to so many people my age, and they all love it. Like very few. It's like very few people diss that movie. Some people, not everyone loves the movie, of course they don't. But I feel now it's more loved than it is hated. Like I watch it now and I'm like, this is like you said, it's more of the same. But I think it wasn't as structured as well, and I think that was the problem. It just didn't have the quite as a big a threat and craziness that the first one had. But the second one has so much great stuff in it, and I love it. And I'll always go and defend it. That courtroom scene is hilarious and fun and like spooky.
That's one of the ones that like I'm like, which movie did that happen in? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm, just because it's so quintessentially iconically Ghostbusters. They're in the courtroom, and then they have to bust everything out, and it's so good.
I'll never forget.
Larry, brother.
Yeah, I love it when he's like, "You're next." He talks to him like, "I gave him a chair." He's like, "You're next." Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh,
we came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Oh, but you know what's funny? I love Rick Moranis afterwards. Wow, like right.
I know.
It's so good. So, I've always wanted Ghostbusters 3. Always.
Yeah.
And so, years, I'll never forget, you know, when the game came out, that's when things started kind of getting some buzz again. And, you know,
yeah, because they actually got all the voice actors to do the game.
Rick
like
Moranis,
they actually
Sigourney
got
Weaver,
Bill Murray to do the game.
Isn't Sigourney Weaver in it too? Like they're all in it.
Yeah,
and
I believe so. Yeah,
I think that's when I remember the writers from The Office were writing the movie, and I remember it was everyone was on board. Ramis, everyone. Ramis. Oh, sorry. They were all on board. I'll never forget. It was Bill Murray who is the one who stopped that whole thing. And I remember an interview with Howard Stern, because I was on Ain't It Cool News, and they had a big headline: Bill Murray has not read the new Ghostbusters 2 or 3 script. And Howard Stern's on the phone with him, and he's talking to him. And he's like, Bill, are you ever going to do another Ghostbusters movie? And he's like, maybe, because I don't know. It's just it's hard. And I'm just paraphrasing, but I almost would tell you this is exactly what he said. I'm looking at the script right now. Like he's like looking at it, and he had not looked at it yet. He goes, I'm looking at it right now. I have not opened it yet. And there was for whatever reason, he just could not open that script and read it. And maybe he did and didn't like it. I don't know. But I know Aykroyd was pissed. And I know, what did Dan Aykroyd called him something? He called him the Hurricane. He said he called him the Hurricane. Like he's just a force of nature. And said that, because someone asked him on like Oprah or something, like they're going to be in a Ghostbusters movie. And he's like, well, you have Bill Murray, the Hurricane or something like that. And I'm like, I thought that was amazing. He called him the Hurricane. But he stopped. Basically, you would have gotten probably like 8 Ghostbusters movies by now if it wasn't for Bill.
Pretty much,
Bill
yeah.
Murray.
I would say so.
He's the one. So, and then, I think the reason, and again, I'm not a Ghostbusters historian, but I did follow it enough to where I'm pretty sure the 2016 movie happened because of Bill Murray, because Bill would never do a Ghostbusters movie. So they said, you know what? We're done.
So they were like,
we're rebooting it. We're just going to reboot it. And then as soon as they do that, he's like, I'll be in a cameo, like whatever. Which was, again, I think he wanted to honor the ladies who were doing it. And we'll get to that movie in a second. But what's funny is that Bill, again, but the reason they didn't make Ghostbusters 3 is because of Bill Murray. They just could not. And I think they wanted when they decided to move on without Bill Murray, I think Dan knew, like, you know what, it's not worth doing, and just said, we're just going to reboot it. And then you got the Paul Feig thing, which I don't want to get into the issues of that, but I'll be honest.
It was almost like they did the same thing as like what Sony did with Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, exactly.
They were almost ready to pull. They were ready to film.
Exactly.
And I'm so sad. They were ready to. They were ready to film that movie, to film Spider-Man 4, and then they were so ironclad on this, which is so weird. They were so ironclad on this date. And then Sam Raimi's like, I can't get this movie out on this date. It's not gonna be as good as I want it to be, or whatever. And they're like, okay, we're done then. And then they just like reboot, and then they rebooted Spider-Man because they're like, well, we got to make more Spider-Man. We got to move on, and he's not going to do it. So so I feel like they finally were just looking for a cutoff or whatever for Ghostbusters, and they were like, okay, he's not going to do it, so we have to do something.
And maybe I'm wrong.
People want Ghostbusters.
And if you're a huge Ghostbusters fan and I'm wrong, let us know, and I'll totally tweet it out and say, hey, this is what it. But I'm pretty sure Bill Murray is a big reason why that 2016 movie happened, because they couldn't move on with it. And maybe because I know there was scripts that Aykroyd liked and Reitman liked and everything. And I think when So it was like, it was Bill Murray like not wanting to do it, plus Harold Ramis passing away. It was almost like, how much more of a reason is there to like try to even cobble it? Nailed it. I think once he passed away, that's when they said, you know what, we're gonna turn into a franchise, a real franchise, and they want to do the Marvel thing, which I still don't understand. But at the same time, I mean, I thought Spider-Verse was a bad idea when they first announced it, and then as the trailers came out. And everyone knows who follows me on Twitter now knows that that's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies ever now. It's amazing. No pun intended. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? There's supposed to be an animated Ghostbusters movie, apparently. They're still making it, which after Spider-Verse, I'm willing to give it a semi chance, but I still don't understand.
Right.
But whatever. I mean, but they made Ghost Central. They made like a place on Sony or somewhere that's like a place to make Ghostbusters movies. Like that's my dog's drinking. Sorry. To make Ghostbuster movies and whatever. And it's like, what? And they had like when the leak happened, they had like, they're going to make a movie with, Channing Tatum and have,
there's going to be there's your male Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm so glad Chris Pratt is not a Ghostbuster. Like, I just want to make that for the record. Like, if he was Star-Lord and a Ghostbuster, I'd just punch him in his face. So,
and in Jurassic World, he's like taking over all the rebooted franchises.
I've still never seen a Jurassic World
Chris
movie.
Pratt is Marty McFly's son.
Oh God, I would throw up on your mouth. Like, I'd be, just like, all over everyone. No, so when I remember when they were announcing they were rebooted, I'm like, okay, so they're gonna move on without Bill Murray. I totally get it, and I'm ready for more Ghostbuster movies. I was ready, and then they announced
that was my thought too. I'm like, well, the real Ghostbusters 3 is never gonna happen, and even if they did, it would not be anything close to like what it deserves to be.
Right.
So sure, just I want more Ghostbusters before I'm 80. So yeah, make something.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm excited where there'd be an all female cast. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm obviously not one of those people who's anti like women or anything like that. I was willing to give it a chance.
Yeah.
But as soon as I heard Paul Feig, I have issues with the director more than anything. As soon as Paul Feig, whatever his name is, was like, this is going to be a whole new reboot, not tied to the other films. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Whoa. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And when he was like, this will be a whole new thing. It's got to be scary. And I'm like, okay, you're right. It has to be scary, but whatever. Which, by the way, that movie was not scary at all. I'm not saying like the first two Ghostbusters were like, Alien or like, Exorcist, but like they had some pretty like jump scares.
Sure.
2016 had nothing. Like, I'll make that for the record. Like that was not Paul Feig has no idea what he's talking about with that. Because I remember deliberately him saying that, going, okay, he gets it. No, he doesn't get it. We'll get to that in a second too. But I had major issues with the fact that I'm like, okay, I have no problem with the cast. Like they all like seem like capable, like they're all capable actresses and like are all like good and everything. I'm not a huge fan of what's her name? The one who did the Puppet Land murders, whatever.
McCarthy.
Whatever. She's over the top. She was whatever. She's fine, but that was too on the nose. And
that was my main sticking point too. Was like I was down with everything because, like I said, I'd made my peace. Like, okay, sure. No real Ghostbusters 3. Okay, they're gonna make something else. That's great. Because I love Ghostbusters. I want more Ghostbusters. I want the brand to be something that people today can still get behind and everything. But as soon as they said it's not connected to anything at all, I was like, that's the one thing you had to do to get the old people on board. Like even if you could take or leave the new cast is one thing, but like it being unconnected at all, like was the thing for me. I was like, okay, well, I guess.
And they did that when they announced the Ghostbusters movie. They did it before The Force Awakens, and I think The Force Awakens really did open what interconnectivity can do for movies. And
that's a great point.
And I think I think if this came out, if they announced this after The Force Awakens, I think it's tied to the continuity. To be honest. And I'll be honest too. Well, if that was going to be in continuity, I'm glad it's not, because it wasn't good. And I mean, we watched it. I want to give it a chance because I'm all about giving things a fair chance. And I went and saw it with my wife. And there's definitely some good moments. I love Chris Hemsworth in it. I love Kate McKinnon in it. I liked Kristen Wiig.
She's the best part of the movie.
Yeah. I thought they were great. Hated the villain. Someone told a friend of mine said I looked like the villain, and I got really mad. And I knew I needed to lose weight immediately. And like just everything, it just the fact that like it mirrored the first movie with like a white monster at the end, and they fought the logo.
It was in a lot of ways it was like a like a spiritual remake of the first movie.
Yes,
and I don't know if that's exactly what almost like Superman Returns is like a love letter to the original like Donner movies.
Did you have to mention that movie?
Well, it's. I feel like the 2016 Ghostbusters was made in that same vein.
Can we talk about that movie again in another podcast? I can mark myself on for.
Sure. I'll just sit back and say, okay, talk about Superman Returns and how awful it is, and I'll let you do it.
Oh, well, that would be a rip fest, man. Oh, I'm sorry for anyone who likes that movie. Quentin Tarantino likes it a lot. He wants them to write an essay on how good it is. I'm still waiting for him to write it.
Oh my God. Not going to convince me.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. No, the movie,
but that's how they made it. It felt like, Ghostbusters is Ghostbusters 1. And we need to get those archetypes down, and they saw that we talked about earlier. But I don't know if they went through with. They got the archetypes and the jokes and the ghosts and the tech and the everything. But I think they took it a step too far in terms of it being like
it was too
a comedy first.
Yeah, exactly.
Like and the characters feeling real. Part wasn't there, and so the tone was a little unbalanced.
Well. Like I said, Paul Feig was quoted when in the state. If you look at the original statement or like press release that he says it's got or whatever, like in those early days, it's gotta be scary, and like, I'm like, yeah, he's right. He gets that, but the movie was never scary, really. I mean, like it was, and it's fascinating is that Aykroyd has really thrown him under the bus lately. Have you seen? Saying? Oh man, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm like, whoa, because I enjoyed it. Like, it's not even close to the original, and I wouldn't say it's close to the second one. But it's still enjoyable. It's still fun. I still laughed a bunch.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It's not a bad awful movie. It's just not. It's just
agree
not
with that.
Ghostbusters. You could have made that movie about ghosts and not call it Ghostbusters, and I still would have like laughed and thought it was funny. And thought it was okay. But But no, like what Dan Aykroyd said, he basically, and I thought I misunderstood Aykroyd. I told a friend earlier that he refused to do reshoots. No, he refused to change things in the movie, and it cost too much to make. And he refused.
Right, it was like the budget stuff. Yeah.
Right, and well, not just that, but he refused to listen to Sony and Dan Aykroyd's notes, and so it cost too much. And he even went on recently back in November and said, if Paul Feig would have listened to us and would have made it for cheaper, there would have been a sequel. But because he didn't, and it was a flop, or it didn't make as much money, then Sony's like, nope, gotta move on. So not just last couple months ago, he did it like last year. I remember posted about it being like, whoa, like Dan Aykroyd just threw Paul Feig under the bus, and I had people defending, Paul Feig, and I'm like, no, I think they were right. I'm like, I'm with them, because there's obvious problems in that movie that, like, I think they saw that and went, okay, dude, you went too far. And he was like, no, I mean, because Paul Feig is, he's not a bad director. He directed Bridesmaids. He directed successful big time comedies that like people love. So I'm not trying to dog the guy at all, but like at the same time,
I think the thing too is like, there were probably so many hands-on and cooks in the kitchen for that movie because it was this brand new relaunch, reboot, re-everything of Ghostbusters as a franchise, and not just a new movie. It's like a new everything.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of like eyes on it to try to like nickel and dime it into like this giant success, and I think that's kind of what hurt it in the end because they didn't have like enough of the driving force wasn't like allowed to do what it needed to do to make it. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. If they think that like if if they saw The Force Awakens and the success it had with nostalgia factor in it with the Han Solo and the Luke Skywalker, I think they would have totally approached that movie differently, and I think maybe it would have been more successful, and they would have had sequels like Dana was saying. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad. And this may sound bad. I'm kind of glad it didn't, because what we are potentially getting now is like got me more excited than anything. So
yeah, and what's crazy about this is like about what we're about to talk about is like it's something that I never thought would happen, because I know, but
it's classic us, Ryan.
it is classic. It's classic. Okay, and we're done.
Yeah,
but
part 2 is coming tomorrow.
But yeah, what's interesting is like I thought like well, okay, so they're going to like relaunch the Ghostbusters with the 2016 reboot, and come hell or high water, that's going to be our Ghostbusters, so you better like it. And that's what I felt like was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I felt like even if the first movie isn't like a super juggernaut at the box office, they'll probably just keep going with it because this is what they spent. This is what they put their time and effort and energy into, like making this thing. And I thought like, okay, well, they'll probably just, you know, we're probably going to get another one 2 years from now, and they'll just build it back up slowly, the brand itself and everything.
I thought the same thing. Yep.
And I kept like waiting, like, well, are we going to hear? Because I was still like, although I wasn't, you know, I thought the movie was okay, but it, you know, just like you, like it was okay, but it didn't really hit all the Ghostbusters notes I wanted. But like, would you rather have no Ghostbusters ever? You know what I mean? So I was kind of like waiting for like, okay, they can make some changes. They can do some new stuff, especially because they teased Gozer and stuff like that at the end of the post credits
which
scene,
was weird,
and stuff
by
like
the way.
that.
I was
It was almost like it was weird. It was almost like when they had Sinestro like turn evil at the end of Green Lantern. It's like, hey kids, hey old fans, you like this part? Well, please see this movie so we can make a sequel. Kind of a hook, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I kept waiting for like, oh, what's going to happen? Is there going to be a sequel and stuff like that? And the movie didn't. I mean, the movie didn't really perform that well at the box office enough for them to like immediately rush a sequel. So I thought like, well, what's going to happen with the franchise? Yeah.
So, and I just kind of forgot, and I just kind of thought like, to be honest, Ryan, I thought it was dead. And I thought they were. And I thought that, like you said, like they might try to shove another movie, or they might, you know, I didn't think they would
because the last thing I heard was like, Paul Feig was like, well, they're not really talking about anything right now. You know, I think that's the last thing I heard.
Yeah.
They were just kind of stagnant.
I just kind of thought like maybe they'll do like a reboot in like 5-6 years, and you know, or they'll do a sequel with the girls again and try to like, you know, shove that down people's throats and, you know, whatever. But you know, so we got like so this is how I just want to say how cool this has all been. So a couple of days ago, we get a random announcement out of nowhere that no one sees
scrolling
coming.
through Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm like blah 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 blah.
Like,
new Ghostbusters movie. I'm like whoa.
No,
what?
Even new Ghostbusters movie. You're like, okay, what's going? Wait, Jason Reitman.
Wait, what?
Jason Reitman. Wait, and you can go, that's the director's, that's like the original Ivan Reitman, directors of the first two films, son. Okay. And I even remember that like Jason I remember even him saying it publicly, like, yeah, I could never make a Ghostbusters movie, like jokingly. Like,
I know.
He even said that. I remember even reading that. In fact, I remember there was a thing that happened before they announced the Ghostbuster movies, or maybe around the same time. He did those readings, those like improv theater readings of scripts. He would direct. I think it was him, and he did Ghostbusters, and he had Seth Rogen, Michael Cera. He had a bunch of people read the roles of the characters.
Huh.
I want to say it was Ghostbusters. I'm pretty sure it was, but I remember it was him. And he was directing it like on for the play or the reading, and it was like and everyone was like said it. I wanted to go so bad. I was like, oh my god, I want to go to this so bad. He had all these different people. You can look it up online. He did it. And I want to say it was before the movie came out, like either well before or well after, something around there. And like you, I'm scrolling through Twitter. And I'm like, whoa, Jason Reitman, and I'll be honest. The first thing I think is, okay, this is different. Like Jason Reitman's doing it. Like this is
because he's like, again, he's Ivan Reitman's son. Mm-hmm. He has carved out a name for himself in Hollywood. To become his own person, his own. He's made his own movies. He's a director. He's done his own stuff. And there's been a few times where he said like, I would. I mean, that a Ghostbusters movie is not the kind of films that he has made thus far. He hasn't done these like big budget, like spectacle blockbuster kind of movies. That's not really what his wheelhouse has been thus far. So it was really interesting to read this story, and the way the story was crafted and written was very like complimentary in terms of like easing you back into like what this movie is. It was more than just oh yeah, Jason Reitman was going to make a Ghostbusters movie. There was more context in that article because it had like some of the whys and his thoughts on what he was going to do with the property and stuff.
Right.
And I read that and I was like super intrigued because it was like he was talking to his dad about it, and he came to his dad with the idea, like he already had an idea of what he was going to. Because I kept thinking like, well, why now? Why didn't he like bring this up, in 2015 or 14 and stuff, like before like the reboot happened and stuff. So the timing of it's really interesting to me. And it seemed like it was more of an impetus from him with this idea instead of Sony being like, oh my God, we need to figure out what to do with Ghostbusters. It was more like it was more of him coming up with the idea and going to Sony and then being like, oh my God, we needed this.
Well,
so
there's a little bit of, I've seen some people, and I think I can understand a little bit. Friends of mine have and people I follow on Twitter.
Speculation.
And stuff. Well, no, they people had said like, part of it's nepotism, and I don't want to get super into that, but Jason Reitman, let's be real, the dude's like worked in Hollywood, like the dude's like made a name for himself, and this is where people are gonna say why he's got it, and people had said that like he's made some box office duds that they have not hit. Now, he's made small films. Like, we've all said this before. Like, he's not made big, like, commercial successful films or popcorn films. He's made kind of, more smaller drama films that, are cheap to make, but that aren't hitting with audiences. But it seems like they're still critical successes. People still like him, but they're not been huge. So people have been saying this is his way of, like, kind of, like, helping his career out. Now, here's the deal. Like, when you're in the business, whether you're related to someone or not, like, whatever. Like, to me, you got to do what you got to do. And and really, like, if you think that coming back to resurrect Ghostbusters for a true in-canon sequel is the way to make your career awesome, like, with like, you have to, like, would be insane to do that unless you knew what you were doing or really were passionate or really wanted to knock it out of the park. Exactly. I mean, yeah. Let's be real. They're all in it to make money. Okay. Of course. I mean, yeah. So first of all, get that out of your head. Like, no one does things because for the most part, in Hollywood, because they have like, they're an artiste. And if you are, you're like David Lynch and you're just doing like, you're crazy. Or you're Lars von Trier and you make a movie about like a serial killer with Matt Dillon and, don't get me started on that crap. But whatever, like, those people exist. And there's also people who like to do a little bit of both, who do it for art and also want to get paid and actually have, be financially successul and be able to buy boats and things like that, which is fine. I don't begrudge any of those people on either side.
Boats.
So whatever, yacht, whatever you want to call it. So here's the deal. Like, Jason Reitman, probably not hurting for a lot of money. Probably has some money because, he grows up. Whatever.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is he doesn't have to do this.
No, he doesn't. But maybe. Yeah. But here's the deal. Let's hypothetically say maybe he is concerned for his future. It's like, man, I need to like get into a franchise for like financial security. Are you gonna like fault him? Well, people will say, well, why didn't you give somebody else a chance? Well, here's the problem. They did, and it bombed completely. Right. And they gave it to someone like called Paul Feig, who is a well-established comedic director, and he blew it. Let's be real, he blew it, and they couldn't.
I mean, it had all. Yeah, the reboot had all the hallmarks of something that should have worked.
Yeah,
on some sort of base level,
and talented people. Let's be real, Sony let Paul Feig go at it, go ham, and it did not connect. And that's my only argument. I think for the most part, yes. Like, you got to give if that was the first thing outside of the gate, I can understand a little bit. Like, yeah, I can see that. But here's the deal. He didn't want it at first. He didn't go to him at first. And maybe he did. Who knows? But whatever. And maybe they turned him down. But here's the deal. They let Paul Feig go crazy. They let a whole different section of people work on the movie, do their own thing, reboot the whole franchise, and it bombed. And for, you can blame it on, the trolls, and I think that definitely plays into it. But in the end, the movie just, I think most people would agree, wasn't a bad movie, just wasn't a great movie. It just did not connect with audiences. So in comes Jason Reitman, who obviously has an affinity for the material. He grew up around it. He's in the second movie. It's like, in fact, he puts his
he was a Ghostbuster fan before there were Ghostbusters fans.
Exactly.
That was in the article.
Yeah, and so the guy loves the mythology and the history of the franchise. So I think, like, before you judge it as that, you got to realize the dude has an immense love for the material. He grew up, he has a fondness for it. So so what I love about this is that, a couple of days ago, it's announced that he's writing the movie with a writing partner from Monster House, which I have not seen. Have you seen Monster House?
I have not.
I've heard it's good. For people who have said it's great. I have not seen it, but I have heard good things about it. Him and his writing partner have written the movie. And this is what's interesting. I said this to Zachy actually on Twitter the day before. Not today, but the day before. I said, I read that article and I said, this movie is way farther along than they are even admitting, because he even said...
If they've already got this.
They said,
usually like months apart with articles like this. First you would get like an article that says Jason Reitman's directing it, and then months later you'd be like, okay, now he's writing it with this guy.
Yeah.
And then months later you get something else.
Yeah. So he announces, he says we're filming next summer, or it's coming out next summer. And they're going to film in a couple months. And I'm like, wait a minute.
You're like, what?
Wait a minute. You're not announcing that in Entertainment Weekly with a director and a writer and a release date and filming in what, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, if it's coming, because they said earlier, they're like, and it's coming out summer of 2020.
Yeah.
Like,
when they said 2020, I went, wait a minute. What? 2020? That's next summer. Like, not this summer, but next summer. That's not far away.
Yeah. That means you have to be filming it now.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I said, this movie. I even said to him. I go, this movie has to be farther along, and it must be locked and loaded. That means the script is approved. That means that means
they're ready to be the casting. Like,
no. I think it's cast. I'm going to say it right now.
Be.
I think it's cast. I think it's already cast, and they're just not announcing it yet. Because the other thing he says in that article, he says, I want to unwrap this like a Christmas present.
Oh,
I said, okay, he gets it. And this is where I'm like, you know what? I'm glad they gave it to him, because this is
the execution has been so good.
This is day one, people. This is day one.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, he gets it. He wants people, just like how,
because in that article he talked about like wonderful surprises we have in store and blah blah blah. I'm like,
he even says casting,
what
characters. He even said like there's great announcements that are coming, and so
yes,
just like
and again, the one nugget that was the most important thing for me to hear in that article, which I didn't hear for the reboot, was that it's in continuity.
Yes, that was huge.
It's part of that was the hugest part for me. He was like, what happened in the 80s happened in the 80s. Our things takes place in present day. It's in continuity. And stuff like that. I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
He's like, we have an idea, we have a story. I'm like, perfect. Go. Do it.
Yeah, exactly. So when I read that, I'm like, oh man, this is exciting. And I was ready like to jump on all the equivalent of Batman on film Ghostbuster sites that other proton charging and things. I kind of, again, I'm not Marvel and Star Wars are my top, and then everything else is kind of underneath that. But I still like Batman on film. I'll listen to Batman on film forever. I mean, that's the reason I'm in podcasting is because of Bill and Batman on film and people I met through Bill. Thank you, Bill, and everything. But but still, you find those equivalents when you like something. You find the equivalent of the Batman on film version of Ghostbusters. Which I found I think is proton charging. That's the one I've gone to, and they're pretty cool.
I made the Batman on film version of the Mario Brothers movie website.
Oh my god, no, you are. Not just Batman on film. You are its own entity of like Super Mario Brothers. Like someone out there will emulate and they'll say, I'm the Super Mario Brothers of freaking
that would be awesome.
Jumanji first movie. I'm not even kidding you, Ryan. You are a legend with that stuff, dude. Like I know no one as devoted as you to anything like that. But yeah, like so when the Ghostbusters thing was out there, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to watch this. Like, this is
super
exciting.
excited.
Like this is, I got me kind of excited. And
because again, it was like we haven't even gotten to it yet. Hour and 10 minutes into it, but for me, I was like, oh my god, like what a great like announcement.
Yeah,
I was
big
floored
news
because it was more because a lot of times you hear just like with this Men in Black stuff, you just start to hear wacky crap for like months where you're like, oh, they're going to cross over 21 Jump Street. Oh, they're going to do this. Oh, they're going to do that. Or like
so
with the
ridiculous.
2016 reboot, like the 2016 reboot where they're going to be like, well, we're doing this, but then we're going to do another movie that's also not in continuity, but it's going to have guys in it and it's going to be this or that. And you just start to hear all these wacky ideas that just sound awful. And just the fact that they came out with like, here's the director, here's a bunch of stuff that he's going to say about the movie. We're going to do the movie. It's going to come out a year from now. And it's in continuity, and we know what we're doing, basically. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Whoa, that sounds great."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. It's one of the first announcements like this in a long time where I've just like read it out of the blue too, from like a brand that isn't like, it's not like a Marvel announcement. It's not like they've done 30 movies or whatever. And you're like, yay, more Marvel movies. I trust you. It's more like, wow, they for something, for all intents and purposes, new to come out like that. I thought it was done really well, and couldn't have been more excited about it.
Yeah.
And then,
well, right. And so what you touched on was that, really quickly, I want to talk about this really fast, is Ivan Reitman, when he said, like, my son came to me with an idea, like out of nowhere, and said, hey, I have an idea for a Ghostbusters movie. And he was laughing and crying at the end. And for people who, Jason Reitman writes some pretty like powerful, like, up in the air. I've not seen it, but my like Justin,
I've heard it's great.
One of my best friends was telling me it's amazing. He's like, dude, I love that movie. And, and John Brearley, Batman on Film regular as well. Another one of my best friends was like, dude, that's a great movie. So like, they were, I haven't seen Juno. I know Juno's loved. Thank You for Smoking. Yeah. Whatever. So he's done movies that like are really impactful and are they're well written. They're not like just action packed, Marvel films. They're Marvel films are well written, but like these are like drama, well written films, comedic, dramedies, if you will. So when Ivan Reitman said that, like, my son came to me with his writing partner and said, hey, we got an idea for Ghostbusters 3 and this is what we're going to do. And we're like, yeah, that's it. And they went with it. And obviously Dan Aykroyd, talked about it. So you're like, okay, this is in good hands. Like Ivan Reitman's like, give a thumbs up. Like, it's been in secret. They have a script. It's pretty much locked and loaded. Okay, cool. Then today happens. And they say they released a teaser. And I'm not gonna lie, Ryan. I was like, what? No way. I was like hyped before I even watched it. And I was
hyped when I saw of course this could change, but like the text that they put with the teaser said that it's Ghostbusters 3. And I'm like, well, is that what it's called? Is it actually going to be Ghostbusters 3? That's what you're going to call this thing?
I don't think it's going to be called Ghostbusters 3.
I don't think it is either. Like maybe they'll do a subtitle like Ghostbusters Legacy or something like that, but right. Ghostbusters Forever, Ghostbusters and Robin, but we'll see.
Yeah. So,
but it just got me excited just to see it listed that way.
So, yeah. So when I turned it on, I'm like, okay, like, and he said like wear headphones, and I'm at work, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put my headphones on. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, I'm getting excited. I'm like, I boost up the light on my phone. I start watching and restarting that, and it's like this, empty farm. And then you start hearing the music from like the very, like the beginning of the original Ghostbusters. And I'm like, oh my Lord, this is like, holy smokes. And you hear like the weight, something's like tinkering on something, and you hear like,
yeah.
You're like, what? You see the light. Oh man. All that combined, such a simple teaser, and going up to Ecto, and the thing comes up.
Yeah, and then the sheet comes up on the car, and you see the back of the Ecto one. Yeah,
and then at the very end, the proton pack turns on for real.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. it's such a simple teaser, and it is so it already nails the mood of Ghostbusters more than 2016 movie ever could.
In a minute's time.
In a minute and 20 seconds time. The tone was already set in that little small space of time. And I gotta tell you, I was hyped. I've watched it like 20 times. And
clearly, like we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you, that music, Jason, the fact that he put that music in, like he didn't, because here's the thing. If you take out someone who's not like a hardcore Ghostbusters fan, they put in the
yeah.
They don't do the opening library. I don't even know. I'm not that deep of
That's what it is though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I'm going to put in the creepy, library music, like, the recurring theme in the movie.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's the kind of thing where like only like super hardcore Ghostbusters fans are going to know the earliest when it starts, like the second it starts, like, oh my God, almost like, we're little teaser for our next show. We're going to do a show on Glass. It's almost like, at the end of Split where the Unbreakable theme starts playing and I'm like, oh my God, it's connected. It's kind of like that where you know that you're in for something special before it even gets going.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because it gives you, again, Ivan, or God, I call him Ivan. Jason, even in the article that releases the teaser, he said it's meant to bring up more questions than answers. And
oh my gosh.
And the way they're doing this is brilliant. And I gotta give Sony a lot of credit. I mean, Sony is killing it. I mean, I haven't seen Jumanji, and I'm not gonna see it. I have no interest of seeing it. But that was a big success. The countering with, you think it was a dumb idea for Sony to put it as cross, entertainment, or as a different thing to see than Star Wars: Last Jedi, and it makes a lot of money. And then you go see, you think, oh, Sony, an animated Spider-Man movie, that's dumb. Nope. Genius. And it's not making a giant load of money, but it's making decent, and it's a critical.
The word of mouth is critical. It's crazy.
Oh man, it's gonna make a mint off of home video, man. That movie's gonna make bundle. And then you've got Venom, which admittedly is not a great movie, but has now made almost $800 million worldwide. I mean, they have succeeded. Like, they have made some good decisions, whether or not I agree with everything they've done, whatever. But with Sony, with Ghostbusters, they have rebounded from 2016 Ghostbusters movie so far flawlessly. Like, instead of announcing, this is funny, really, and we're gonna wrap up because I gotta go to bed soon, but really fast. Proton Charging had this joke. I even tweeted it out. I thought it was so funny. You're gonna laugh at this, Ryan. Hollywood Reporter was announcing Dan Aykroyd put the cat out of the bag months ago that the Ghostbusters was happening, and it was already, they had a script and everything. He spilled the beans early, and Proton Charging quoted it and said, "No, man, that's camouflage." Because he's said it so many times that no one's listening to him.
That's true. Cause I was like, God. He says that every 6 months. He's like, we're doing more. Yeah, and you're just so used to him saying that. Yeah.
So he said that's camouflage, and I died laughing because it's so true. Yeah. I've heard Dan Aykroyd for years say that, and no one took him seriously. And then this just dropped out of nowhere, and the fact they're able to keep this secret has been really special. I'm really thankful. I'm really happy that they did this, and it's going to be really hard for me not to read spoilers, and I'm not going to. But I mean, they have done such an amazing job, and now they've created a buzz. Because here's the thing: you don't want to announce a movie and then everyone go, "Oh, great, another Ghostbusters movie." No, they said, you know what? Once they greenlit this Jason Reitman film, they said, we got to just drop it all at once. And maybe because what happened with the 2016 movie was they let the word of mouth get away from them.
and all the social media reaction stuff. They were like, "What's this going to be?" And they just kind of the weird, troll behavior kind of took the lead
It did,
here.
yeah.
So I think that they smartly were like, whatever we do with this, we're going to unleash it all at the same time when it's ready, and so people know what it is and get excited about it right away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think whoever's idea it was, genius. It was just genius. And maybe it was Jason and Ivan and Sony all together putting their heads together. Whoever's idea it was for the teaser. I mean, obviously Jason wrote the teaser and with his writing partner probably and came up with the idea, but whoever's idea it was to put that out right afterwards, genius. I mean, you're talking, you couldn't script it better because now everyone is just buzzing. Because what did I see right after the announcement of the movie? I don't know if this is going to happen. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. And then they drop a teaser the next day. It's like, the next whoa. Day. So not only are you countering, you're trying to kind of cover up the 2016.
You're getting people on board fast.
Yeah. Everyone's like, okay, we're in. And there's even people still doubting, I won't believe it until it's in the theater. People saying that, oh my God.
This comes out tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. Not to be that fast. But man, I mean, it's, I gotta say, I'm really fast. I'm gonna do some speculation. The other things that have dropped is, they're saying they're looking to cast. I'm gonna say it right now. It's cast. I think they've already cast it. I think it's done. I think they've already done it. Because if they're filming in 4 or 5 months, they've got to get costume fittings. They're gonna this movie is still gonna be like a franchise movie. They're still gonna, likenesses. Sure. They got to get toys ready. This is going to be, trust me, this thing is cast in my opinion. And anyway, my speculation is this, or what Hollywood Reporter said is that there's supposed to be, 4 Ghostbusters, two boys, 2 girls, all teenagers. This is what's interesting. Mm-hmm. I like to believe they're probably 18, 19 years old, probably. Not 13, 14. That'd be too young in my opinion. Maybe so. Maybe it is a Stranger Things thing. Again, we don't know what Jason's doing, and we don't know what roles they're all going to have. But I'd like to think they're going to be a little bit older so they can grow into it and become their careers, kind of a thing. Right. We don't know.
Maybe hit the kind of tone that Ghostbusters needs. to feel like Ghostbusters.
Yeah. And so with all that said, I kind of think that is this the grandchildren of the original Ghostbusters? Maybe not. I gotta say, I hope Oscar from Ghostbusters 2, the baby, right? You like to think that maybe one of, maybe he's in it and he plays a role, the character, not the actors, because he played by twins. Yeah. But of course. But no, the character is going to be in a movie, and maybe he has, he's closer to your age. I don't think he'd have an adult, a young adult or a teen. I would like to hope he wouldn't have a 18-year-old kid at that point. So I don't think it would be one of his kids. But I'd like to have him be a role in the movie. Maybe he plays an advisor. Maybe he was a Ghostbuster at one time. Because this is the one. Sure. This is the one thing that by making it in present day and having those other films part of it and what they're doing, they can create a lot of really cool continuity between films. And just like how Star Wars had the Clone
I was about to say it's like Star Wars.
You have a whole thing that's right for it. And you could create Oscar as a Ghostbuster between films and then create the comic books and the video games and have them all be about Oscar taking on the ghost and the paranormal between there and then having to hang it up or whatever. There's a lot of and that's already, to be honest,
what in the heck happens to the original Ghostbusters?
Obviously that's an obvious thing.
That's the biggest question, right?
Well, here's the thing too. IDW guy, the guy who's in charge of the production and all, he's already teased all the stuff too. He's already teasing it.
So they're already down with whatever.
They're already.
Oh my gosh.
He said, wait till you see all the announcements we have coming. And I was like, what? So I mean, and I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not gonna buy Ghostbusters comics right now unless it's tied to the film. Unless it's an in continuity universe, like the Star Wars. Because I'll say this right now: if it is, I'll be buying them. Like I will. I'll be throwing down money. So if they're doing like a Star Wars thing, they're geniuses because I'll be first in line. So, but yeah, so they've created themselves kind of an interesting thing that they could be really doing some special stuff in. I don't know if they've thought of it that far ahead, but I'll be honest. If it's the young kids, I like to think there's probably at least one that's related to one of them. At least one.
You would think.
Yeah, you would think, but I'm excited. I think
They could all be randos.
they better not be. Yeah, don't even. You had to bring that up, didn't you?
Sorry.
Had to. Thanks a lot.
I know.
Got Parasha Proton. Proton could be anybody. Yeah, well, I know. It's true. It wouldn't be Spider-Man because I love. See, really quickly, Spider-Verse did that whole thing way better than Star Wars. Sorry, it's gonna say it right now. They did. They Spider-Verse knocked it out of the park.
It was pretty good.
But I think that there's probably going to be, it's probably going to be a literal passing of the proton pack. That it's going to be, hey, you know what? We're too old to do this. You're going to be the ones who have to do it because we can't do it. Because here's the thing, and we should probably close with this. I really gotta go to bed. But Bill Murray, I've been saying this for a while. And this has been consistent since I can remember, since I've been reading stuff in magazines and in internet stuff. Bill Murray has said, you know where I'm going with this. He said, I'll do Ghostbusters 3. I want to die in the first reel. That has been a direct quote from him forever. And, you know how old school he is by saying real, right?
Yes.
So he wants to be a ghost. And that's been like rumored forever. I'll even remember when Sigourney Weaver was doing video or interviews for Avatar back in 2010. And the Office movie that the writers from The Office were making, and that movie was getting, the Ghostbusters 3 almost happened. Sigourney Weaver, she basically confirms Oscar's in the movie. And she's like giddy about it. She's like, Oscar's a Ghostbuster. And like she's already revealing stuff. Like she could tell she's like she's excited about it. Like she mentioned that. I'm pretty sure she mentioned Oscar might be a Ghostbuster. Like kind of smiling, like okay, yeah, he's a Ghostbuster. Then and Bill's in it. He's a ghost. Like and then like laughs and like so. I was like, yeah, makes sense. Already confirmed. Okay, so I'm gonna say this right now. Bill Murray is going to be in it. I'm pretty sure if he's in it for a minute, it's going to be as a ghost. And to be honest, I hope the opening is Bill Murray dying. I hope I would in a serious way. I would love for him to be like wisecracking in like, let's say he's in some hotel, like ghost busting somewhere. And then like a ghost does something and he dies. Think of how crazy, like that would shock everybody. They'd be like, what? And like,
it could freak people out.
It would freak people out and make it have some stakes. And then you would also have that humor and, whatever. So,
like what if they have like another, like a library ghost set up like
with Bill Murray dying?
Yeah.
Think of how nuts would that be? That's what, honestly, I'll be honest, people, that's what I've been predicting for years was going to happen. And I think it still could happen. But at this point, with Bill being like, I don't really want to do it, I could see him not doing either and just being a ghost showing up for like 2 minutes. So
who knows? Like, maybe Jason Reitman doing it might have some pull where it's like
I've heard that
he's part of the family, like he's like he wants to kind of he's got this idea. Maybe if he's got this pitch that works, like. Maybe, I assume whatever he's doing isn't going to overstep the, the original actors, the legacy actors' bounds in favor for the new people. Like, surely it's going to be like Star Wars, and where the legacy characters are going to be in it appropriately. Yeah,
No, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think Jason Reitman brings us a lot more credibility than a lot of people because he's not like a guy who's trying to rest on the laurels of like, again, if he would have directed Ghostbusters 3 right out of the gate, it'd be a little weird. Let's be real. Like his first movie ever was Ghostbusters 3. That'd be like, okay, that's straight up nepotism. Like the fact that Jason went out, made a bunch of different movies and is now making this, pitched it to his dad. Like, hey, I got a great story. And everyone's like, and Aykroyd's on board. The fact that it's being made speaks to the fact, and they made a teaser and it's officially being made, that I think this to me tells, I think everyone's on board, including Bill. And I think it gives it a weight that everyone is like, okay, we get it. This is a passing of the proton pack. We can get behind this idea. So I think this is where I think it gives it a lot more clout and credibility than like Dan Aykroyd trying to, further his franchise, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because it's tangible. I mean, it's a movie. It's a real thing. It's going to happen. Here's a teaser.
Well, and think about this too. Let's hypothetically say this is all legit. Like Jason Reitman literally went to his dad out of nowhere and said, "Dad, I got a story for Ghostbusters 3." And he's like, "Let's hear it." And then he's like, "Crap, we got to do it." And then brings it to Dan. And then Dan brings it to Bill and says, "Bill, we got Ghostbusters 3 but you know who wants to make it? Jason. That's right. Ivan's kid wants to make his third one. And this is a story. Listen to this." And he's like, "All right, I'm in." Like, it could be as easy as that, because as soon as you hear a couple key things and then all of a sudden you say, you know what, I can get behind that. I can devote, because let's be real. Bill already showed up again he already showed up in a Ghostbusters movie again as a cameo, and he died. So you know what? Like, he can do it again. So I mean, and now it's like he'll be Venkman, and it's like it eases the pain a little bit, because you know what? Even a rebooted one didn't do as well. So maybe Jason coming in and saying, "I got a great story," and they all go, "You know what? We can get behind the story." And that the fact that everyone's behind it because it's a legitimate story and it came from the heart, maybe that's why everyone's going to do it. So I like to think of it that way. Well, here's the thing. Will it be good? Who knows?
Who cares?
Yeah. At this point right now, I'm all in. So that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So as soon as
it's like one of those things. I mean, like, just think. I'm just thinking, like, think about all the great resurgences of these franchises we're getting. Star Wars, Rocky, for God's sake. We've had two. Rocky. We've had Creed and Creed 2. Like who would have thought that those would A come out and B be as good as they are? It's crazy. And now to have like Ghostbusters potentially being resurrected in a way that's going to like honor the old stuff and be in continuity and set something new up. I mean, it's really fantastic, and I hope it turns out as well as we can hope for. You know?
Yeah. And you know what, people? And I'm pretty sure Ryan and I will be breaking down the first actual teaser trailer.
Oh, man.
That's beside this. The cast. I mean, I think we've already solidified now. This is another pillar of Batman on Film that we'll get Ghostbusters talk from me and Ryan. So, I'm really, Ryan, thanks for letting me do this. This is awesome.
Oh yeah.
I've had a blast. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to dive into and get excited about and geek out about Ghostbusters with you in the future.
Me
so
too.
We've got future episodes to talk about. It's gonna be fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, and what's cool about it is like it's this one little, and it's not a giant cinematic universe yet. It's not this giant. It's this one thing. Yeah, I know, right? But it's this one movie. It's coming out relatively soon.
Yeah,
like
it's
probably gonna come out before Matt Reeves' Batman movie. Like,
which is insane.
To be honest,
that's
insane.
That's
really insane.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
So that means between now and then, heck, it's gonna come out before maybe at the same time as Wonder Woman 84.
Oh my lord!
It's in the summer. Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So that means between now and then we'll have plenty to talk about. So whenever enough stuff builds up, whenever there's a big trailer or something, we'll definitely come back and do another show.
Yeah, totally. Right on, man. Well, thanks so much for having me, man. This has been a blast.
Yeah. You got anything to plug before we go?
Well, I'll plug really fast before my head hits a pillow here. My Twitter handle @Herman22 with 2 N's, aka PThug. Please follow me on Twitter. I talk about all kinds of stuff. I'm on a Marvel show, Marvel newscast with Sean Gerber, old Batman alum, Batman on Film alum. We break down all the Marvel stuff. We got a cool Patreon over there. We got a new Discord Patreon chat that's really fun. I've been doing an exclusive book club through that. building a really cool community. So check that out. My Star Wars podcast, The Saga Continues, and also Blaster Cannon. Also check this out on Den of Geek through that. Lots of cool stuff. So yeah, Ryan, thanks so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan. And in terms of my plugs, just hopefully everybody listening has listened to episode 135, where me and Ryan Lauer interviewed voice actor Wally Wingert, who is the voice of the Riddler in the Batman Arkham games and in the Batman 66 animated features that came out in the past couple of years. And that's a really fun episode. It's a fun interview, and if you haven't listened to that yet, please do that. And the next BOF show should be our review show for M. Night Shyamalan's Glass, which hopefully will feature. Well. Yes, hopefully we'll have you and Mr. John Beerley on that.
He'll be on. We've got to figure out a time that can suit all three of our needs.
We need to see the movie.
We're late. We're a little bit later. Or night owls. Well, you're more of a night owl than I am. I'm this is kind of late for me. But yeah, which we'll have a funny story about Glass when we record the show. But we'll talk about that in that show. So,
I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up today's episode. For Paul, I am Ryan. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey now! You've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? Go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jet on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/jet.batmanonfilm. Email Jet via jet@batman-on-film.com. I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.